informative. There's a lot of information that was very useful in my line of work. I particularly liked some of the speakers, Dr. Hossein and Mr. Pratt. They were very practical, very down to earth, and they made the topic of economics and competitiveness come alive. In the corridors and in the formal discussions, there was some concern that there were not enough voices from the real SMEs. And we thought, well, given logistics and how these workshops operate, that yes, you could have had some more discussion openly on the real issues. And I also liked the focus of the agenda in terms of the solutions-based. But from a more practical perspective, it would have been a little more clear if these solutions were actually dealing with actual wants faced by the SMEs, and that we'd have the instant suggestion of solutions right there. So they would themselves benefit from the discussion on what is a particular solution facing their particular situation or problem. But all in all, I think it was a good opening for the center. We had a good mix of people, and I would like to urge and really strongly recommend, from my perspective, that we have a lot more interinstitutional collaboration, because the center has given me information I never knew existed before in terms of what's happening in the Caribbean generally, and I'm thinking a lot of it applies to the agriculture sector, and I would really like us to get in on that action. And I think there will be great opportunity for collaboration in terms of the intellectual capital that has been generated, in terms of the sharing of resources, and in terms of the even sharing our common pool of SMEs that we pool together for their benefit. It's not about us, it's about, in the end, the SMEs. And I would like to close by repeating what Basil Springer said. We need to develop them one firm at a time, and that is holding their hand, shepherding, and going through the process, but one firm at a time. Because, again, as other speakers said, competitiveness is a very dynamic and sometimes misunderstood concept. And if we don't relay the opinions and the expert advice and so forth, we may find ourselves back in the same boat 2 years from now. So I applaud the Center for the initiative, and I would really like organizations to really get to know what it's doing and get on board with the action and with all initiatives and support it fully, because I think the time is now for us to focus on this issue of how do we become competitive, not tomorrow, but sustainably.
Two things caught my eye: the idea of a solutions agenda and the idea of competitiveness. The key to just growth and development and sustainability in this region. And as a school teacher, this is something I've been doing for many, many years. I wanted to bring a number of my students, and the organizers were very generous in terms of sponsorship and so on. I think they have benefited tremendously, and so have I, in terms of exposure. The presenters were well chosen and excellent. What I enjoyed too is that many of the presentations were pitched at a level where everybody can understand. The layman can understand. And the Q&A, the participation in terms of the clinics, that has been really an interesting experience, and an experience that has engaged everybody. So all in all, I think it has been a tremendous success, and what we have to do now is just to move forward with the ideas and recommendations. Even if we can just do 1, 2, or 3 of the things, I feel it would have been a tremendous success.
Thus far, the forum has been very informative, not just to the private sector stakeholders, but also state agencies and even some students who were invited from secondary schools. I think it's important, therefore, that the forum has incorporated a lot of young thinkers as well as experienced individuals, so that they'll look at ways in which entrepreneurship could move from being a micro experience to something that could actually promote genuine long-term economic development. To me, the most important feature thus far has been trying to embrace a regional focus on how very small island issues in developing states could be addressed, because in a lot of these forums looking at entrepreneurship, it's done more from a theoretical perspective. But the forum has really benefited from the experts who are from Guyana and Jamaica, thus far looking at case study scenarios that may be better contextualized to entrepreneurship in these small island states. So thus far I found it quite helpful in that regard.
I really enjoyed the conference so far because I learned a lot. All the different speakers, people that you see on TV all the time. I never thought I would get the opportunity to meet, but it was really nice listening to them because they said all these things that help. All the things they said will help me, I know, in school, because I know it's on our syllabus and whatnot, and it helps me understand like the real world a lot more. Because before I never knew much about like credit ratings and how like banks work and how to get a loan and how I would want, if I wanted to start a business, what I would do. But now I know.
Well, I'm absolutely delighted to have been here for these 2 days. I think it's been a really interesting couple of days. I hope I've managed to share some ideas. I've certainly learned quite a lot from different people. I feel I know a lot more about the challenges that the Caribbean now has in terms of its competitiveness. I think you have great opportunity here. You have lots of the elements of competitiveness, and if only you could overcome the weaknesses, you could do really, really well and blaze a trail in the 21st century for competitive economies. So I had a great time, really enjoyed it, and long may the event continue all around the Caribbean to make a big difference.
I came here today because I was really interested, first and foremost, in networking. It's different being inside of an office. You don't get to meet all the people that you get to liaise with. So it's nice to have this opportunity that you get to speak with people. Particularly rewarding over the last 2 days because we learned quite a bit of stuff, even with the last clinic that we just had, where we were looking at trying to improve the financial mechanisms. Great suggestions, very targeted, pinpointed, which I think is what this forum is supposed to be all about. So I'm really pleased with the experience thus far, very much enjoying it. The only thing I'm looking forward to more, if I can get to be here next year, is even more discussion, because I feel as though sometimes you just really want to get into it, and unfortunately it has to be cut short. So looking forward to getting even more discussion out of this forum.
Well, I'm very excited to be part of this competitiveness forum. I think it's a very timely topic in the Caribbean, and through the Caribbean Competitiveness Program that we lead at the IDB together with CEDA and with DFID, we are very pleased to be supporting the activities of the Caribbean Center for Competitiveness. This is a true public-private sector dialogue, which is, I think, fundamental to come to real solutions to address the problems of competitiveness in the region.
I enjoyed the forum because the creative industries is one of the industries that is highly innovative, and I think that we have not been able to tap into that, and we don't have the expertise, and we don't know how to treat with the creative industries here, as well as other parts of the world that have already been utilizing it and taking advantage of the industry. It's the only industry that survived the recession, so I think that a forum like this is very, very good for tapping into that and giving us avenues to deal with the creative industries. So I'm glad that they're having a forum like this. I'm looking forward to speaking at it next year when it comes to fashion. So I really did enjoy it, and thank you, Mrs. Indira, for inviting me.
I think it's a very timely action for this new entity, in the university fold, as it were, to appear, because in the Caribbean and small states, around the world, it's very important for us to get the model right for expanding the economies, because that then leads to good socioeconomic well-being for all. So one recognizes that to get an economy to grow towards sustainable development, and I should say that sustainable development is not only the economy, it's also the environment, the social activities, the cultural activities, the spiritual activities, which people often ignore. It's nice to get that combination right, but one has to drive it by the economy. And one can only grow an economy one enterprise after another. And in the context of one enterprise after the other, you can do that either through existing arrangements of existing sectors, the tourism sector, the oil sector, the energy sector, agricultural, manufacturing, etc. But there is the emerging private sector as well, which leads to entrepreneurship, which leads to new enterprises, sunrise industries, and many of them come from the cultural industries, from the renewable energy industries. And it is quite amazing the talent that we have, in ICT, fashion and drama, art, music, film, etc. I live that on a day-to-day basis, and people come up with some amazing ideas. Unfortunately, these startup businesses tend to fail at a rate of 90% in the first 4 years or so. And those ideas that fail never see the light of day, right? That means that we have a real problem in terms of growth. Imagine if we could turn that around and have 10% or 20% fail, then immediately you have a factor of 4 of growth right there without doing anything, without even trying. So therefore, one has to recognize that you have to look at things like quality, like productivity, like competitiveness to get these things to grow. So I have enjoyed this thoroughly, you know, in the context of listening to other people with different experience, listen to other models. I myself presented my own model, which we have researched over the last 3 years, 4 years, which is the CBET shepherding model, which I think, you know, has a lot of potential in dealing with startup enterprises. We cannot ignore startup enterprises. The traditional model which commercial banks deal with is okay for enterprises that are well established, you know, and have collateral, but new enterprises, people with intellectual property ideas, you know, no major assets, you know, have a difficulty in getting money. And the idea, the management, and the money, that's all you need, that combination. But if you've got one, if the idea is no good, and there's no money to buy management, and there's no money for developing the enterprise, it means that we are behind the 8 ball, you know, and we need to address that. So this whole seminar, this whole forum has allowed us to be aware from several perspectives as to what is needed, you know, in this environment.
Hi, my name is Elena from Lakshmi Girls. My presence at this forum was very interesting. Firstly, we met various people from different organizations, and I enjoyed that the most because you got like different personal experiences, and that made me reconsider my career for the future. So I really enjoyed this experience, and I hope that the organization continues having forums like this and includes school children.
Hi, my name is Sarah Mohammed. I'm also from Lakshmi Girls Hindu College, and as a young entrepreneur growing up in the world today, I have learned how to turn my idea into a successful business venture in the future.
I've been saying all along that I see a role for the university to be playing in this whole area of creating wealth for the economies. The University of West Indies does a lot of research, but I would like to think in the past the research must be more relevant to the needs of the economies and the socio-economic development of the countries. I think the time has arrived now, and I'm happy that the university is taking this position. In fact, I was pleased to hear Professor Harris say that the Caribbean competitive sector would be like a hub, would act like a hub for the entrepreneurship and the skills and talents that people have that are really not expressed commercially in the region. So this is something that is very welcome, and I'm happy to be here, and the presentations were excellent. As I say, it is very timely. We are long awaiting this, and I see the University of West Indies playing a more important role in linking our countries together, linking our people, the private sector, the young people who are involved, who we encourage them to be involved in science and technology, right? These are the sort of things that I see us taking off from here. So I would look forward for the role that the university would be playing in the future socio-economic development of the region, especially at the time when jobs are issues. And as I told young people already at my country in Grenada, that when young people leave school, first thing they're looking for, hear them, I want a job, right? Not realizing that jobs are not easy to come by, especially in the regular business communities, because they have their full quota. What we really need in the Caribbean are new employers. We have employees, loads of employees. We need employers, and employers would have to come from people who have creative, innovative, and entrepreneurial skills to take our country forward. So I'm really looking forward to the outcome in the next few years that lies ahead of developing this new sector of new businesses, to be developed.
I'm the business development specialist, and one of my areas is actually training entrepreneurs, and I believe this forum is a very important one for all entrepreneurs to come to, and I wish I saw more, because I think this forum really captured a lot of elements that a business needs to develop to get to that next level of what you're talking about, being competitive. And I really hope a lot of them can afford or can get some assistance to go to Jamaica. Thank you.